suit and tie and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
And we've got a good one for you. His name is David Whiting. He is here to take your legal talkback queries. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Raph.
Do we have homework?
We have no homework other than homework I gave myself. Does that count?
Yes, it does.
I thought that we would talk very briefly about because over the last few weeks we've had a number of people ringing about infringement notices. You get a speeding ticket, and we had one where they were fly-in, fly-out workers and had gone to Western Australia to do some work and missed the ticket. And another one was a lady who had gone to visit her in-laws in Ireland and was away while the ticket arrived, and then the extra ticket arrived, and then the ticket after that arrived. Now, some years ago, the government decided that what we were trying to do was make sure that bad drivers get penalty notices or get penalty points, demerit points on their licence. So, and there were a number of people who were driving very expensive cars that were registered in the names of companies, and they were just happy to pay the fine. I don't know who was driving on the day, so here's my cheque for whatever it is. So they introduced a rule that essentially says that if you are a corporation owns a car, corporation gets a ticket, corporation doesn't do what it's supposed to do, the fine for failing to nominate a driver is currently $3,846.
Gosh.
It's a very good reason for having the car registered in your name and not somebody else's, or not in a corporation's.
Very good reason for actually telling them who was driving the car.
Yes.
Just a reminder, our Rental Crisis Forum, which is in a few weeks' time in May, go to the ABC Radio Melbourne website, 774. Lindsay Warren is going to join us from the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal. Lindsay administers the renters and landlords part of VCAT. What's your question going to be, David? Do you have a question for VCAT in our forum? There you go, unscripted question. What would your question be? Mine's why does it take so long?
No, I've currently got 3 issues, VCAT-related issues, right? And so I've got someone who lives in a duplex and wants to put carers in the other side that this person already owns. Now, and we've issued an application that basically says, or the client issued an application, it says, because I'm moving back in. Well, in fact, what I want to do is put carers in there. Question there, right? And then I got an interesting one the other day for another client, and in this particular case, the question, if you say, I'm going to sell the property, you're required to provide evidence with the notice. So, and it's kind of a sloppy procedure, because if I had an investment property and I was going to sell it, I would want the person out. I'd want to spend some money on the property and then sell it. It doesn't work that way. You've got to produce a contract of sale or an agent's listing authority, which kind of makes life a little difficult. So, although I do understand what in a sense it's a redress of the balance. It's now far more focused on the renter than it is on the landlord.
1300 222 774 if you have a query for David Whiting. Laura does, calling from Ocean Grove. What's your question, Laura?
Hello, David and Raph. I have a general question, a community question about the status of recycling on the nature strip. Now that the state government has introduced the redemption of 10 cents per whatever bottle, what rights do we have as I suppose homeowners, somebody going through my recycle bin for getting refunds on
bottles?
Laura, if it's inside, well, there are some bylaws. Some of the councils have local laws that make it unlawful to fossick through somebody's rubbish, and there can be a fine from council. My view is that you've put it out there for a particular purpose, and until council picks it up, you've not abandoned it. So I'm saying, clearly if it's inside your property, that's trespass and it's still yours. So until bin night, let's not have the argument. Bin night comes, you put it out. I'm saying it's still yours for the purpose of it being collected by council. So I'm saying it's not lawful for someone to fossick through your rubbish for bottles or cans or bank statements or indeed anything else that people fossick through rubbish for.
And how could people get fined for doing so?
Well, someone's got to find them first.
Yeah, the council would need to, wouldn't
Yeah,
it?
council would need to. There needs to be
I've
a
just
bylaws
spoken to the
officer.
council.
Beg your
Yeah,
pardon?
I've just spoken to the
And
council.
what they say?
And they said that they are going to refer it to local laws, but they
Drum
were
roll.
unsure. Yeah, they were unsure of the situation. And I said, well, if there needs to be evidence, I can provide it because it's an increasing phenomena that's happening around our areas.
Can you identify the person who's doing it, though?
Yes, I can get the details of the registration number, the type of car.
Oh, okay. And you're prepared to come to court and give evidence?
Well, and that's just it. Is it such a big issue, or can the council take it on as a notice to say that you've been caught doing that? I don't know what state these people are in to that they go and do this in the first place.
Well, in the first instance, Laura, it's because, in my view, is they need the money.
I'm sure that's the reason.
Yeah.
Look, Laura, thank you. Just quick clarification there, David. First step would be complain to council.
Well, first to see if there's, you can look on the council's website, see if there's a local law that prevents it. Right? And otherwise, my view is they're still your goods. You've put them out there for a purpose, not with the lid open for random fossicking.
No random fossicking. Laura, thank you. We've had that mentioned a few times. That's interesting. Rosemary's in Geelong. What's your question, Rosemary?
Oh, thank you. Mum died 26 years ago, and then her house was sold. And my two brothers and I obviously each received a third of the sale price. Now my older brother is claiming that when Mum was alive, he gave her $30,000 over many years to help her financially.
Yes.
And now he's claiming that he's entitled to that $30,000, which he said was in a separate bank account, with interest, which would now be $150,000.
Right.
And he claims that I owe him that money.
Oh, so where we're at the moment is that you and your brother are the beneficiaries of your mother's will?
No, there were two brothers and I. So one brother's in Sydney, one brother's in Perth. My brother in Sydney hasn't got any money, so he can't help him. The brother in Perth, who is a retired solicitor, is now claiming that money. And he wants me to pay him that money.
Well, why would it not come from your mother's estate? Why would it come from you, Rosemary?
Well, Mum died 26 years ago, and we're all honest, we were brought up well.
Rosemary, he has no enforceable claim.
Thank you.
All right. Now, first of all, it was your mother who owed him, if anybody did. It wasn't you. Are you your mother's executor, are you?
No, it would have been the local solicitor who was as honest as the day was long.
26 years ago, I lent my mum money over a period of time. The last payment I gave her was 26 years ago. Can I have it back with interest? No. He has no enforceable right to the money.
Thank you.
Good luck, Rosemary. Louise is in Hurstbridge. Sorry, Louise. What's your question?
I was just wondering if David knows anything about if there's any possibility that the law can support my granddaughter who's being cyberbullied. And she was being cyberbullied by just a couple of kids from her previous school. She's now left. And they keep changing the accounts and sort of stalking her.
What do you mean by changing the accounts, Louise?
Hello?
What do you mean by changing the accounts?
They, so what they do is they just open up a new account. And
are we talking about a bank account?
No,
or social media account?
Social media.
sorry.
Social media.
Yes.
We're talking about text, phone, social media bullying.
And they keep changing their accounts.
The answer is you can get an intervention order against them. So she can apply for a personal safety intervention order. Cyberbullying is not permitted by the legislation.
Yeah, well,
she needs to identify them.
Yeah, we know who they are.
All right, but you also need to persuade the court that that's who they are.
Yeah, we have evidence because we've got all the...
All right, you start with the police. In the event that you can't...
do something?
I'm sorry?
You think that they will do something?
They'll make an assessment of their prospects of whether they can achieve what they want.
Okay.
I had to deal with one 3 or 4 years ago, and a letter from a lawyer worked in this particular instance. This was bullying in the workplace, but in a voluntary capacity, and it achieved the desired outcome. So she can either the police will do it or you can do it for her.
So potentially, David, a lawyer's letter
may come along and say, well, we're going to do all of this, and if we do all of this, it will appear on your record and you really won't want it.
So a lawyer's letter to the people or their parents.
Well, start with the police first.
Police first.
An interview with the police has far more impact than a letter from a lawyer.
Good luck, Louise.
Okay, thank you very much.
And good luck to your granddaughter as well. Diane is in Moorabbin. What's your issue, Diane? Sorry, Diana.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning, Raf and David. I just had a question in regard to whether VCAT have the power to overrule a decision about the valid voting of an AGM, of a body corporate committee at an AGM.
It is possible this is called an administrative review, Diana, and there are two kinds of review. Let's call them administrative and judicial. An administrative review says that, in a sense, constitutes the remaking of the decision. You know, you see it in migration cases where somebody gets rejected and they go to have it reviewed and they're found to have made a mistake and the visa gets granted or whatever the decision is. Judicial review is where the court comes along and says, we're not satisfied with the process you followed in making the decision. We need you to make the decision again. So there's a defect in the process which might invalidate the decision, and the matter then goes back to the owner's corporation to do it again. So it might be that you go to VCAT because you're not happy with a resolution passed at the annual general meeting. VCAT might come back to you and say, the process at the annual general meeting we find to be invalid or not properly followed, therefore we require the owner's corporation to make the decision again. Does that constitute overruled in your book, Diana?
I suppose I'm asking more if the voting was carried out to the letter, according to what we understand.
So you think they breached the rules?
That's the process. That's the process.
Yeah.
In that particular case, what you would do is you would be told, the voting processes were irregular. We can't be satisfied as to the accuracy of the outcome. Do it again.
You can try.
Hold another meeting.
Even if the process was accurate.
Aren't you disputing the process, Diana? Aren't you saying they didn't follow the rules?
No, I'm saying that somebody who was not voted onto the committee now wants to be reinstated. But the voting process was all carried out to the letter, clear majority, etc.
Well, there might be a process for the filling of casual vacancies in your owner's corporation rules. So the committee might be 5 people turned up and were voted at the election. It may be that there is a process for appointing a casual vacancy.
Where does she start, David, if she wants to find out if she's got grounds?
She needs to have a look at the owner's corporation rules and work out from where it fits in where she's at.
Good luck, Diana. And Peter is in Bass Coast. What's your question, Peter?
Morning. We were given gift vouchers to 3 family members for a recreational activity business prior to COVID. They're telling us they were valid for 3 years and that they offered an extension for a period of the COVID closure. Now, due to various reasons, we've been unable to coordinate the 3 family members to get together to use them. And then when we have tried to use them, they've now told us that they've expired.
There is a limitation period on gift vouchers. It's several years. I think it's at least 2. I'll tell you next week for sure, but there's some information from the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. So have a look at the ACCC, and that's where I'd be looking to see what it is.
Yep, no worries.
But they're not perpetual. No. And remember, they were also issued by the organisation that owned the facility at the time they were issued. So I might get a voucher from a restaurant. And in 2 years' time, the restaurant's been sold, someone else has got it, they don't have to acknowledge the vouchers.
And Peter, is your dispute with the gift voucher people you say it should last this long and they say, no, it doesn't last that long. Is that the essential dispute?
Yeah, and I've just tried to sort of say, well, the voucher was valid for 1 hour for each person. Their fees have gone up now, and I've said, well, we're prepared to pay the difference.
The extra.
We'll pay the extra, but not
sort of
the base.
That's all good.
Yep.
But due to COVID and a lot of circumstances,
you couldn't
that
get
changed.
organised. Okay, David will see if he can learn more about that.
Frame.
Yeah,
Yep.
and we'll work that out for next week. David Whiting is here taking your questions for some free legal advice. Leslie is on the Mornington Peninsula. Leslie, what's your query?
Hi. Thank you, Raf and David, for taking my call. I have a question, David. I have a property that I have vacated. I own it, and I have a nephew. My adult nephew is living with his mother, wants to move out and occupy my property. Am I required by law to adhere to all the codes, to bring everything up to speed? I have had a monoxide, a carbon monoxide test on my gas heater. And that.
Leslie, your nephew can enforce the minimum rental standards.
Right, yeah.
Right, so on one view, you have an obligation if you are renting property to meet those standards.
Yep.
The fact that he's your... Sorry?
So regardless of whether it's a private or not.
Yes, otherwise everyone would have private rentals at lowest than standard.
And can I ask, Leslie, is your nephew paying rent or is he just going to be staying there?
Oh, yeah, a token sort of. I like the idea of taking money from him and then handing it back when he, gets ready to relocate. It's sort of like forced savings, if you like. Just
and do you get along? You got a good relationship with your nephew?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you could wing it, Leslie, but you run that risk. You also run the risk that you can only increase the rent once every 12 months.
Sure, yeah.
So if there is a falling out, your nephew is a periodic tenant and has all of the rights of a tenant under the Residential Tenancies Act.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. Thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Okay, good luck, Leslie. And just a reminder, the guy at VCAT who runs their residential tenancies list is Lindsay Warren. He will be on the panel with David Whiting and others. Lindsay Warren's been at VCAT actually for 20 years. We'll be talking about issues precisely like Leslie's. You can come along and ask a question. That is in May. Mohammed is in Oakland's Junction. What's your question, Mohammed?
Hello, good morning, Dave and Raf. Thank you very much to take the call. I want to highlight quickly the unauthorized transactions, unauthorized sales, and also maintaining credit cards in the account without authority. And that has happened to me anyway. And I've just wondered the process and how it goes, and really it's taking a long time.
So, Mohammed, which transaction happened without your authority? Just tell us exactly what happened.
Well, it started by a sales order, which I never authorized it, and consequently...
Somebody gave the credit card details to the company.
Yes.
Was that you?
But that is me, but the point is, there is never been authorized to maintain it, and never been authorized to...
So it's an ongoing payment, and you say you didn't authorise the ongoing payment?
The way I read it is that Mohammed has ordered from that organisation before. Someone has placed another order, presumably pretending to be Mohammed, and they have pulled him up, and they've just used the credit card number that they've got in the system. So, Mohammed, do you go to the company and you want them... So, first of all, you dispute the transaction with your credit card company.
Yep.
And the second thing you do is you go to the company and get them to remove your credit card details in respect of any further transactions.
Yep. Done. That's been done already. But the point is they didn't refund the money even after the period they talk about it. And also...
So have they not refunded the money? Have you disputed the transaction with the credit card company?
Of course.
And what have they refunded the money?
No, not yet, but they said we are investigating it. Yes. And it takes up to 8 weeks.
Yes.
And before that, already, when I spoke to them, they...
Which one them of the is this? Is them the credit card company or they the
yes,
sales
the credit
company?
Card, no, yep. the credit card company.
Yes.
They said their customer service girl classified the issue incorrectly, and that's why 8 weeks lapsed, and now we started another 8 weeks, and the company didn't refund the money for a certain period of time. We are getting into 3 months now.
Mohammed, this is the problem that comes with online sales and credit cards. All right, now we now transact so much electronically that people take your credit card details over the phone and process the payment, believing them to be correct.
So where can he go now?
Well, his process is, well, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's disputed the transaction with the company that has honoured an order based on stored data, and he's taken it up with Visa or MasterCard for the purpose of disputing the transaction, called a chargeback. So what would normally happen, if the credit card company finds that his claim is valid, they will refund the money, and they will take the money from the other income coming through for the merchant.
Does he have other places to pursue?
He can go to VCAT to dispute the transaction, and we haven't discussed what its value is, so that may or may not be worthwhile. He may also, depending upon the size of the organisation, complain to the Australian Privacy Commissioner about the retention of information. But there you would start and look at the what the privacy policy is in the company he's dealing with. Part of the difficulty, Raf, is that if I was to sell you something and you paid by phone, by credit card, I need to keep the details of the credit card for the purpose of the transaction. How do I isolate it so I don't keep it for any other purpose?
Yeah, that's the difficulty. And just briefly, Mohammed, how much are you looking to get back from the original company? What's it worth?
Well, the amount has been above $500, and the companies are one of the largest companies. But I'm very wondered. Big companies like those ones, they violate Section 36 of the Consumer Law. They violate the Code of Conduct of doing unauthorized sales order to people. Never
Sorry, Mohammed, the problem is, did the company know that the transaction was unauthorised?
Well,
I accept that it wasn't authorised, but if somebody rang me up and said, I'm Mohammed from Oaklands Junction and I'd like to buy an XYZ, and here's my credit card.
No, it didn't happen like that. So I've been rang by one of the salespeople. He is not the regular person I deal with.
Okay. Then, Mohammed, what you might do is go to the company and ask for, if they've got information on you, like a recording of the telephone conversation,
yes,
ask them for a copy of that.
Maybe
you are entitled to details of the private information they've collected from you. And just about every large organisation I talk to, or I have the privilege of ringing, says that we're keeping your information for training and quality verification purposes.
There might be some info there.
Yes.
Mohammed, good luck. You're doing the right thing with the credit card company, at least. Kay is in Surrey Hills. What did you want to ask, Kay?
Hi, Raf and David. My daughter's the executive of her aunt's will, and she's having issues getting probate signed off on the will. She's been asked, she sent it in once, and she's been asked to take it back to the doctor that signed the death certificate and have it signed by a legal sort of, a JP.
So this is now, when you lodge a probate application, there's an affidavit by the executor, which normally needs to be sworn or affirmed before a person who can take an affidavit in Victoria. Yes. Then you attach to that a certified copy of the death certificate.
Yes.
And you attach to that a certified copy, the original will, and you attach to that an inventory of assets and liabilities. Where has she failed?
Well, when they read the death certificate, it says that she had this aunt had a stroke.
Okay, so what we're now being asked to provide is difficulty. It's a different question. So it may be that Kay's niece is being asked to prove due execution, that it was properly executed by the person, and secondly, that she had capacity at the time she executed the will.
Yes, that's right.
So that requires normally an affidavit by the deceased's treating doctor at around the time that at that time in her life, I was the treating doctor and I formed the view that she did or didn't have capacity. That's the question.
We've done that. We've done that.
Yes.
And sent that back, but they now say that it has to be certified by another legal person.
What has to be certified?
The witnessing of the GP saying...
Okay, yeah, I understand that. So the question is that when you're filing a court document, and this is now a court document, it is normally executed in a particular way and sworn or affirmed. It's not sufficient for your niece to simply say, here's the medical report I got.
And I got it signed by JP.
It's what normally comes in the form of an affidavit, and it's got to be done in a particular way, Kay. And
yes,
can I say...
How does this happen? Because
you can't ask a GP...
you can't ask a GP to go and front up to a JP. You can't... The GP...
No, can I say we have these problems all the time? When I say all the time, 3 or 4 times a year, we normally go to the GP. And the answer will be they can accommodate it, but it then becomes a question of paying the JP for the time. That'll be the issue.
So it's getting the doctor before the JP?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the process, Kay.
The JP goes to the doctor, but the JP lives down in Mornington.
Right, but there's more than one in Victoria, Kay.
Hopefully you can bring those two people together, Kay. I am going to leave it there. A reminder, our discussion, especially around the rental crisis with David Whiting and with VCAT. That's in May. It's on the website. David Whiting, thank you very much.
Thank you, Raph.
David will be back next Tuesday. That forum, if you want to come along and ask questions about renting, being a landlord, all those sorts of things at VCAT, just go to the ABC Radio Melbourne webpage. You'll see my face at the top right, I think it is, and just click on that. Come along, ask a question.